So today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Amanda Stent, who is the inaugural director of the Davis Institute for AI at Colby College. The author or co-author of more than 100 papers on natural language processing, she's held a number of distinguished research and leadership positions at leading technology companies and universities. She was a natural language processing architect in the Chief Technology Office at Bloomberg, Director of Research at Yahoo, a principal member of the technical staff at AT&T Labs, and an associate professor in the computer science department at Stony Brook University. With more than 30 patents to her name, Dr. Stent served in the 2020 to 2022 National Academies Committee studying responsible computing research and is now a founding co-editor-in-chief of the ACL Rolling Review. It's a great pleasure to welcome Dr. Stent.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. I am so happy to be here on this lovely day, and aren't we lucky that the room has opened their facility, their gorgeous facility for us, as well as arranging this great report. This talk is going to be a story in two parts. Can we go to the next slide? Thanks. First, I will briefly recap the state of AI in general, and then I will summarize the distinctive ways in which Maine is tackling AI. I want to confess, in case it's not obvious from my accent, I'm a Maine transplant, but I do think the culture and beauty of Maine are amazing, so I've tried my best to capture what I find so delightful about the state. Okay, so next slide. Near my previous house, there was a museum holding the world's largest collection of automata. Does anyone know what an automaton is? If you've ever had a musical box or a doll that moves, I found these automata fascinating for three reasons. First, people historically have spent a huge amount of time and effort building mechanical singing birds or mechanical acrobats that can flip. Second, the history of the storage of information is captured in this museum's exhibits, all the way from actually storing things in metal up to punch cards and punch tapes, which were used in the early computing devices and eventually led to all the data that we have today. And third, the deep connection between these automata that people have spent so much time building and the historic myths in many of our cultures about creation origins. So let me just tell you briefly one myth. The one Maya creation story is that the gods wanted to make creatures that would pray to them. So they made creatures out of clay, but they fell apart. So then they made creatures out of wood, but those creatures, although they were sentient and intelligent, wouldn't pray to them. So they sent a flood to destroy them because they were scared that they would be too smart. Does this resonate with anyone today? So, of course, we've all heard of ChatGPT now. The latest GPT-3 product from OpenAI, I asked ChatGPT to tell me about the state of AI. Of course, really, I was asking it what people on the internet say about the state of AI in 2019. So we can go to the next slide and see what it said. There's a lot of text there. I want to summarize. It said that there are new breakthroughs happening all the time, applied in many industries due to increases in data, compute, and advances in machine learning. And there are concerns about the ethical applications of AI. So I want to break down some of those things briefly for all of us as we talk about the state of AI. Next slide. We, of course, do not have to worry that Maine is missing out in the state of AI in general. We are all participants in AI today. Although we have not successfully built humanoids, we have built agents that have their own senses and their own way of acting in the world. In particular, everything that we do online, every time we close our front door and our smart doorbell senses, every time we buy something with a credit card, every time we send or receive an email or interact on Facebook or Instagram, every time we look at a weather forecast, and increasingly every time we apply for a job, to buy a house, to move somewhere, we are giving AI data into its senses, and then it is interacting with us and making decisions. Young people today do not remember a world, so the college students that I just finished teaching in Jan Plans literally do not remember a world before Siri. Do you remember a world before Siri? They don't remember a world without machine translation, and not just text to text, but you point your camera at a menu and there it is in another language. They do not live in a world where that was not a thing. They don't remember a world without Facebook. They don't remember a world without AI. They are the first generation AI. And they are also the first generation to be surveilled at a 1984 scale that has never been seen before in history. These AI applications have become so good for those three simple reasons. Next slide. Massive advances in, not really machine learning, the core algorithms were known since the 1980s, if not before, but massive advances in specialized compute data that either is labeled in itself or by us as we interact with the world, and lots of investor dollars, billions and billions of investor dollars, resulting in an incredible centralization, especially over the last 4 years, and homogenization of AI. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me talk a little bit about that. 5 years ago, if you used a speech recognizer or turned on closed captions on this talk or a YouTube video, maybe 3 words out of 5 would be correct. But big companies were going, oh, we solved AI speech recognition because they got down to 6% word error rate on a data set called Switchboard. Then 3 years ago, suddenly COVID happened, and all of a sudden we were getting 4 words out of 5 correct. Why? Because so many more people were typing in what they were saying, and the machine was learning from that. And now, 9 out of 10 words are correct, at least if you speak with a general American accent. This is incredible progress, given that speech recognition research has been going on for 50 years. 50 years, and in the last 5 years, we have closed the gap. Speech recognizers are now regularly better than human transcribers. Regularly. But at what cost? The development of AI is incredibly unevenly distributed. These speech recognizers that are so good, and we're using one of them now, it's called Whisper, it's amazing, you should try it. But it trained for several months on highly specialized compute at the cost of several $1 million. That's one model. They needed maybe 10 engineers to get that set up, but those 10 engineers were very specialized engineers. And then the data came from all of us. Not every company can afford to spend $10, $12 million to train one model to do one bespoke thing. Nor do we have access to the compute or data to do that. The data is highly centralized in a small number of companies. Compute is highly centralized in a small number of companies. Most small or medium-sized companies take 2 to 5 years to turn from being a traditional company to a data-driven AI company. And all but 6 months of that is not really machine learning. You have to re-engineer the way data flows through your infrastructure, you have to buy new computers, and you have to change your talent. You systematically have to reinvent yourself as a company. You can't just overlay AI on top of what you're doing. That's why the Entrepreneurship Center at the RU is so beneficial for local companies to help you make that transition. But a lot of companies think they can do it for 6 months with very little money, and it really is an incredibly expensive and time-consuming process. Deloitte estimates that although 76% of companies are investigating AI, only 24% have successfully deployed AI to production. So how can we help change that game for the state of Maine? I want to actually pause before we go on to that. And can you go to the next slide? There's going to be a little build here, so I'm just going to say things, and whoever the magic wizard is going to go next. So I want to acknowledge that all of the illustrations except one in this deck were generated by DALL-E. I am not an artist. I would not have been able to put together these illustrations without DALL-E. No chance. Not an artistic bone in my body. Maybe some of you are like me. So that's fantastic. I love it. At the same time, I do want to acknowledge that these AIs are trained on data, especially in the case of a generative image generation system, trained on data extracted and mined from humans. And in the development of these AIs, there is often theft of intellectual property and theft of labor. I also want to acknowledge that many AIs so far have been developed without consultation with artists, authors, humanists, psychologists, sociologists, economists, or other relevant stakeholders, including the people who live in the places where they will be used. In the application of AI, there are significant risks to individuals, groups, and society at large. And I think that's a challenge that we have to address collectively, and we have the opportunity to lead in that way in Maine. So let's talk now about the state of AI in Maine. Next slide. I asked ChatGPT, oh yeah, by the way, we still haven't built the humanoids, okay. I asked ChatGPT about the state of AI in Maine, and the answer was illuminating. Do you want to go ahead? I'm sorry, I don't have any specific information about the state of AI in Maine. However, AI research and development is a global effort. It's likely that there are some universities, research institutions involved in AI in some way. Some human wrote this template for every state and then built it in. So I think that's why we're all here today, is to change that answer. Maybe not in ChatGPT, but in our own lives. And one way we can change that answer is by talking more. This event is a great opportunity. I want to continue the conversation. When I lived in the New York City area, we had a lot of Google groups for different kinds of technical depths. We have set up a Google group called Maine-AI at googlegroups.com. Nobody owns it. It's not moderated. Feel free to join. Feel free to post your jobs, your events. I want to hear all about them. I want to go to all of them. I want other people to hear all about them too. So that's my brief ad here. But in terms of us in Maine, first, as Usama correctly pointed out, the UN, the US, and many other countries around the world agree that two of the most critical challenges facing us are climate change and demographic change, along with threats to democracy and freedom. Now, in Maine, we face two of those challenges. We face climate change. The Gulf of Maine is warming faster than anywhere else in the United States. And of course, we are one of the oldest states in the country. So AI can help us effectively address these key challenges. And here we can lead, and it does not take $3 million, $12 million model to start to address these challenges. What it does take is working with stakeholders, using humans along with computers, and being careful with the data that we use, that we have in plenty in Maine. So, Maine also has some significant advantages in this area, including, in particular for our size, a wealth of research and development talent. We have 3 independent research labs in Maine that I know of that are profiled in the report, as well as multiple universities and colleges. And we are increasingly focusing that talent on addressing these key challenges using AI in highly interdisciplinary ways. So let me highlight some of the ones that are profiled in the report. Next slide. UMaine and Bigelow Labs have been collaborating for several years on this fascinating eDNA project. I just think it's thrilling. And there's the Tandy Center for Ocean Forecasting at Bigelow Labs, and I'm pretty sure I saw Nick Record over there. You can ask him all about it. There's the Center for Research on Sustainable Forests at UMaine, and Aaron Weiskipper will be talking later this afternoon about that. There's precision medicine research going on at MD, IBL, and JAX. It would be impossible without, I hope they agree, it would be impossible without modern machine learning. And there's understanding autism at Colby using multimodal modeling and finding faraway galaxies, and Professor Dale Kosevsky will be talking about that later today. So second, in addition to developing AI tool builders that's interdisciplinary with their own subject matter expertise, but also technical expertise, ability to work with and build AIs. In addition to that, we can also and should have AI tool users. So next slide. There are important and critical advances in Maine going on in the areas of healthcare and life sciences, aquaculture and forestry, financial services, and education and career development. Are we behind in some areas? Yes. Donna Eng and I were talking, she's at Northeastern just at lunch, about if we're going to do AI in Maine, we need to improve K-12 education. We cannot have students coming out of high school without even taking algebra and expect to build a machine learning and AI future for Maine. We collectively need to fix this problem. We can't just import all our talent as adults. We need people who are from Maine, grew up in Maine, are educated in Maine, and then go on to become leaders in Maine. But critically, when we come to applying Maine, we don't just have applying AI in Maine, we don't just have technologists. We have product managers, we have designers, we have historians and UX experts. All of those people are essential to the successful deployment of AI. And having those people be educated and critical and informed about AI is really important. And that's what we're trying to do at Colby, build the next product managers. My previous role was as a technical product manager. Yes, we need more AI engineers. We can hire all the AI engineers in the world. If we don't have AI informed and AI critical product managers, terrible products will be built. You have no idea. So yes, we need AI informed and AI critical product managers, and you will be hearing from CEOs of companies today, and other organizations that are really helping us to build that talent pool. So I want to highlight some of those. If you can go to the next slide. You'll be hearing about AI in veterinary medicine at IDEX, which is a place I would love to work at. Come talk to me. You'll be hearing about AI in patient care at Maine Health and Unum. In the report, they talk about AI in aquaculture at New England Marine Monitoring, and AI in forestry at UMaine, and AI in sports at Omnic Data, and one that's not profiled in the report, AI for mining, relevant to our electrical future at Prospector Portal, which is a startup in Waterville. These are all exciting opportunities for people who are technology adjacent to really effectively use and deploy AI. And it's so exciting to see those developing in Maine. So finally, next slide. Because we have a state with a small population and a relatively lightweight government, or so it seems to me, coming from New Jersey anyway, we have the opportunity to lead in the development of AI policies and practices, including education, that respect the rights of individuals and prevent societal harms. For example, in 2019, Maine passed the strongest privacy law in the country, including protections against misuses of facial recognition technology, which is an AI technology. We have the opportunity, through the coming implementation of aspects of the AI Bill of Rights from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, to really make Maine a leader in how to use AI in a way that respects the culture, traditions, and rights of people who live here and around the country. There is no reason, I'm just going to say something bad about California. They have a lot of technologists, so their technologists drive their public policy in certain ways. We don't have to be that way. We can have a better balance. So our senators and congresspeople are on important committees where they can help to make those decisions as well, including Homeland Security and Intelligence. So I want to close, thank you, next slide, by highlighting some of the ways that educational institutions in Maine are encouraging everybody to become participants, active participants in how AI is developed and deployed. UMaine has an AI initiative. There are some faculty here from that initiative. It's a great initiative. You should sign up for their talk series. We have the Davis Institute for AI at Colby College. We welcome you to come to our talks, sign up for our hackathons, participate in our career fairs, come have coffee with our students. All of these things are open to everyone in the community. There's a Computing Ethics Narratives project that is joint between Colby and Bowdoin colleges. And the Root Institute will provide consultation on responsible AI, which I think is a phenomenal service for organizations. So I want to close there. I hope I haven't run over. Last slide. This is what we're doing at Davis AI. Some of the things that I've talked about are here. This was a picture generated by a college student at Colby in response to what is AI in the lived environment. And finally, next slide. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. Here's some further reading if you feel like you want to read more. And then finally, I want to really thank the students in our Jam Time course that we've been teaching for the past 3.5 weeks, where we have read a lot of these things and had some of the discussions that led to the thoughts that I have just shared with you. Here are some students participating in our fall datathon that was run with Data IQ. I hope some of them stay in Maine. I want to thank the Experiential AI team, and I want to encourage you to join this Google group and share your jobs and your talks and the things you're reading and all the stuff you're doing about AI in Maine. And this picture, I took it.
Thank you very much. So we have time for one or two questions for Amanda. There are folks circulating the microphones. Or I can just repeat the question. Sure. Go ahead.
Hi, my question is this. For those of us who are excited by this, is this like go back to school and study computer programming for 6 years? Or is this like there are just so many different elements of policy and interpersonal ethics? And what's a way to get involved with those of us who are in school?
So the question is, if you're excited by AI, do you have to go back to school and become a computer scientist, or are there other ways that you can contribute? When I went to Colby, I said if after 5 years I have turned the CS department into an AI department, I will have failed. Instead, We want every student and every faculty member and every member of the community to be informed, critically engaged with, and contributing to the development of AI. So no, we welcome your different ways of thinking and your different voices. You don't have to take a linear algebra course to be an informed AI tool user, or in some ways an AI tool builder. At the appropriate points in time, you may want to work with a technologist, but there's a lot that we can do on our own, especially now with things being so much easier to use. A good place to start after this event is to come to another event at any college or university in Maine that's working on it, or we're going to have a set of resources on our website, but Andrew Ng runs a great 1-hour lecture called What is AI and How Can You Use It in Your Company that you can find online on YouTube. And then there's and then get involved, read the AI Blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, and think about it and how does it affect your life. Download your history from Google or Facebook or Spotify and take a look at what AI has been perceiving about you and think about what you want to do there. So there are many ways that you can become involved without becoming a computer scientist.
Thank you. One more.
Yeah, curious. The education industry, really cares here. A lot of parents, I'm worried about that.
Great. The question is about ChatGPT, and as a parent or an educator, do we worry about ChatGPT like ruining our children's ability to think and write? And I'm going to give credit here. We try not to do anything on our own. I am not a writing instructor, but we have been working at Colby, talking at Colby for the last 4 months with our writing office and our academic integrity office and our Center for Teaching and Learning, and also reading a lot of what's happening on the internet. Yes, people can plagiarize with another student. They can plagiarize with ChatGPT. If they want to cheat, they're going to cheat. However, ChatGPT can provide several really useful things for students of any age. Help you get started. Brainstorming, especially if you know it's not telling the truth. I asked ChatGPT last week to tell me the truth. Literally, please tell me the truth. And then, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And it said, 42. So, teach them not to trust it. Let them use it for brainstorming. Let them use it for scaffolding, and get them engaged in editing the output of ChatGPT or any one of these other AI writing assistants. In these ways, you can still learn to write and think, and you're doing it in ways that really fit with the workforce you're going to be going into. Those are some of our suggestions.
Terrific. We'll take a couple more. 1 or 2 more. Sure.
Yeah. I think there are very real risks with the uses and applications of AI. So my first approach, sorry, the question was how do we deal with resistance to the application of AI in areas like education and medical devices? And I think there are very real risks, so I would start by listening to the concerns of your other stakeholders. You cannot lose, you can only win when you listen to more voices. After you've listened to their concerns, maybe there's something very real there that you need to take on board. And the mere fact of listening, deeply listening, causes acceptance of and engagement with you about what may or may not be going to happen. I'm sure that I hope they teach doctors this. Certainly in the classroom, we learn to listen to our students' needs before we attempt to just storm over them. And I think this is what Osama was talking about when he talks about experiential AI. It's human assisted by AI and AI assisted by humans. And really the two have to go together. If you listen to their concerns and there is a real concern, then you deal with it. If there isn't a real concern, then maybe it's some material that you can use for people in the future. But quite often, as with ChatGPT, I think people, they first see it and then they go through the 3 stages of AI grief, okay? Which is shock, horror, and acceptance, right? So you have to let them get through shock and horror before they get to acceptance, and maybe along the way you learn something useful.
Terrific. And with that, let's thank Dr. Stent for